Good morning, everybody. Now, if you have ever held the Healing the Wounds of Trauma book in your hand, it says that in 2001, 10 leaders from the war-zone areas of the Great Region met in Nairobi. And that's how the book in your hand was developed. Now, the person standing to here was able to hear about the Healing the Wounds of Trauma in 2012. That's when there was the convening session, which was facilitated by Margaret Hill. It was for the children program hosted by the Bible Society of Kenya. Now, when I walked into that meeting, I only knew the term convening session, but I don't understand what it means. So I went through the convening session and later on understood, wow, this program is for me. And it was for me because I was able to identify myself with what was brought out in the program. I had lost my father at the age of 3 years, and my mother lost her husband when she was only 22 years of age. Very young widow with a young son and expecting my follower. And so I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, which I couldn't understand. Even when I was an adult, I didn't understand why I was behaving the way I was behaving, how I was acting the way I was acting, until when I went for that convening session. Later on, I had the opportunity of going through the training in Kampala, where I was a co-teacher or facilitator with Harriet Hill. And I didn't know she's the director of the Trauma Healing Institute. What I knew that all of us were trainees. And so we had an opportunity of working together for 5 days. And from that, the Lord has increased my knowledge of working with the traumatized people, especially the young children, because of my own experience of not only being traumatized, but my own experience of being healed. And so after being healed, I have the passion for purpose of reaching out to the other young people in Kenya and also in East Africa. And so the journey has been there for 5 years. And today I'm standing here not to give you only a report about East Africa, but on behalf of the SIM Global Trauma Healing Coordinator, Stacy Conrad, has given me the opportunity to present this report on behalf of SIM. Now, I will be mentioning some of the countries, and some of you may be working in those countries. I'm speaking of the countries according to the SIM map. Every agency has their own map, so don't worry if some of the countries are crossing some of the countries you are working. I'm only focusing on the countries where SIM has a presence and has work and what you are doing there. I want to begin by Nigeria, which is in the West Africa part of West Africa. And most of you have heard about Bill and Roland Font. They're already master facilitator even before SIM as an organization was able to integrate the trauma healing program into their ministries. And so in West Africa, especially Nigeria, there's been several equipping sessions. And in the past 1 year, they have been able to do equipping sessions whereby 280 have been trained, and also 236 have been trained as trauma healing facilitators in Nigeria. And so when you are saying trauma healing facilitators, there are different categories. Either they are master facilitators, training facilitators, or apprentices. And that's a big number. They were able to hold the first national community of practice gathering with over 50 participants coming in. And here they were able to work with different mental health professionals and other organizations working in Nigeria. Now, in terms of partnership, which Harriet has mentioned, there are about 12 different organizations were able to come together involved in terms of the trauma healing program. I'll just mention a few, not because the other ones are minor, but because the ones I'm mentioning are part of the Trauma Healing Alliance, like the World Renewal, and you have also the Bible Societies, which are also in those places, and also the Seed Company. But we have that organization who have been able to come in, Nigeria, Bible Society, and the Church of the Brethren. And there is a SIM-related church in West Africa called EQUA, the Evangelical Church of West Africa, and in Liberia they are called the Evangelical Church of Liberia. So they're in partnership and the program's running there. So when we come to the next one, which is Liberia, I'll have very little to say because all of you have heard from Nancy Wright-Ball. She's the contact person, and she's the one who is coordinating the program in Liberia. But I had the opportunity last year to be able to attend the equipping session in Liberia. I had the opportunity of leading the first advanced equipping session in Liberia, which has been able to certify about 3 Liberians as master facilitators, and we have over 60 who are now training facilitators, and about 130 who are now apprentice facilitators in Liberia. So Liberia to me is another second home when it comes to the trauma healing program. Now let's go to South America. SIM as a work in Bolivia, And in Bolivia, we have had some few members of the Bolivia team being trained and certified as facilitators in 2016. So we have 3 of them, and they have done 10 healing groups, and they are planning to do their first equipping session in the month of April this year. Then we have Ecuador also, where 5 members were also trained and certified in 2016. And today, they are leading healing groups across the area. Let's come to North Africa. Now, we will not mention the countries. We are saying North Africa. We have an SIM trauma healing facilitator who is working in North Africa. And she was able to have an equipping session for about 4 people, 4 believers. And those 4 believers were certified, and they were able to go and do their healing groups. Now, we are speaking about North Africa, and more specifically some countries where from the media you may see there is no hope. But I want to speak to you. There is hope in North Africa. And so in October last year, they were able to train about 30 women also who are together with the American Bibles and SIM, who also trained as trauma healing facilitators, and they continue to do healing groups with the Muslim women in North Africa, and that's a very great opportunity. Now, how do you do healing groups with the Muslim women or Muslim communities? That's an area which I believe in the course of this AOP we are going to learn, but also we are going to have a challenge in terms of how to contextualize with them. Now, Sri Lanka is in Asia, and we also have a SIM there, whereby there was an equipping session which took place in Jaffa 2016. 28 were trained, and 7 of the 7 healing groups have been able to come out of that, and over 80 persons have been able to go to the healing groups, and the 4th one is going on, especially for the war widows. Those are widows who lost their husbands because of war. Now, we have Nepal, which is also one of the areas where SIM is serving. We have 2 who have been trained as trauma healing facilitators. We had the opportunity of one of them to travel all the way from Nepal to come and be trained in Nairobi. And after that, they have been able to do some healing groups there. And so I want to shift to East Africa, where I've been mentioned. Now, SIM in East Africa, we are focusing on 3 countries. We have SIM Kenya, we have SIM South Sudan, and we have SIM Ethiopia. So with South Sudan, it's very easy for the news, because Kenya, we have been a peaceful country. So when it comes to trauma, we never looked to be like a target group. So when it was introduced to us, it was because in 2007, 2008, there was a post-election violence. And that's the time when Kenyans realized that actually you cannot remain peaceful. You can also experience violence and chaos. But when the program was introduced in 2007, I want to tell you, most of the areas where we have been helped has nothing to do with the post-election violence. We had many unresolved issues, which brought a lot of trauma into our lives, and nobody was focusing on them. So the post-election violence in 2007, 2008 was more like a wake-up call. But the issues we are dealing with has nothing to do with the post-election violence. Our issues were affecting normally the normal Kenyan life. The issue of domestic abuse, and issues whereby people are not being helped. Now, in Kenya, which is one of the developing countries in East Africa, we have only 25 psychiatrists operating in our country. Now, 25, and those who are in private practice, and we have about only 4,500 mental health professionals who are available in our country, with a population of about 40 million. Now, I don't know how many Kenyans can afford the services of a psychiatrist who are not visible. They only see them on the TV. And I don't know how many Kenyans can access the services of mental health professionals at the cost in which they ask us to pay for, about 2,000 shillings per hour, which is about $20 per hour, and you are trying to get a meal. And so we have many Kenyans, a very big population. There was a mental health survey which was done, and they say close to 60 to 70% of Kenyans have a mental health issue. And that's a very big percentage when you have that small number of those who can be able to provide mental health care. And so this trauma healing program has been able to be a blessing to us, those of us who do not have the opportunity of going to medical school to be psychiatrists, or even to go to the university to be able to train in counseling. It takes a lot of resources. But this program is very basic to us, but very useful to us as an influence where you are able to reach those who are around us. So when we speak about South Sudan, we have not only South Sudan as a country, but we have South Sudanese in the diaspora. And Kenya is one area which has a very big percentage of South Sudanese who are living in Nairobi and who are in the refugee camps. And this is where this program we have been able to use. We have been able to work with we did healing groups for over 80 South Sudanese, and you have done equipping session, and up to now we have trained South Sudanese as trauma healing facilitators that are going on. And so Kenya is more like a place whereby countries around us which are facing conflict, they're able to cram there. And so we use it as an opportunity to minister to the refugee communities, but also the asylum seekers in Kenya. Now, in US, which Thaddeus is here, I've been able to host, SIM USA, I've been able to host at least 2 healing equipping sessions every year with over 30, 35 participant healing group, and they've been able to partner with different organizations. Now, let me go back to an area which is military contractualization of the trauma healing program, which Stacey and others are working on. It's called the Healing the Wounds of Combat Trauma. Is a material which is being developed, and the SIM USA are going to host the first equipping session in August, whereby we are going to deal with that. And this is an area not only in USA, but it's an area which is touching East Africa. You have been in the news, we have been having issues of the terrorist attacks in East Africa, more specifically in Kenya. We have lost many of our Kenyan soldiers, and families of those Kenyan soldiers are still traumatized, and they have not been able to get help. And so we believe this resource is going to be not only useful in USA, but useful to Kenya. Now, I am representing East Africa, but I want to speak specifically in the areas whereby as SIM Kenya, we have been able to come in. And that's in an area of not only doing the equipping sessions, which we have been doing, not many, as much as we want, but we have been able to do equipping sessions, at least 5 of them in the past year. And out of that, we have been able to collaborate with the Bible Society of Kenya and SIL in some of the equipping sessions. But the area which we found a gap is the aspect what we call the transition rates. And we were able to do a survey in terms of how many Kenyans have gone through either the convening session or the equipping sessions, and how many of them are still working. And I want all of you to challenge you, look at your own areas of where countries where you are trained facilitators. How many of the trained facilitators have been able to journey with you from convening session to equipping sessions and be able to do in the field? And we found out there was a big number of dropouts. And so we said, how do we meet this challenge? And so we have what we call the trauma healing facilitators meeting twice per year, and the purpose is for them to reconnect with them, to bring in for coaching and mentoring, but at the same time to be updated of the resources. This year when we had the trauma healing meeting, facilitators meeting, there was a facilitator who was trained in 2011, and she walked in the room with a book which was published in 2004, and the draft of the classic handbook. And that's when she's walking in and she's coming and meeting with us with the updated resources. So there are many trauma facilitators who have been trained, but who have not transited over the period of time with the new materials and with the new dimension coming to the program. And so we have created an avenue for them to come in so they are updated with the materials that are taking place and the model. And later on, we have also had a live coverage of the trauma healing program on one of our Christian radio stations, which is live, and we are able to work together with SIL and Bible Society. So I want to stop there and say thank you for listening. God bless you.